Years ago, I was on the phone with a client. This was a very high-level technical person from a well-known global company. I'm walking them through parts of their cloud application instance and answering some security questions. Out of the blue, the client gets an error from the web application displayed in their browser. They can only tell me that they see an HTTP 500 application error. That's it. There's no error code, no context, no stack trace. There's nothing that hints at the cause of the error. For all I know, critical part of the infrastructure may have crashed, or the person I was guiding entered the wrong value in a field. Then comes the most dreaded moment, but yet the most predictable thing from this situation. A simple question. What was the cause of the error? Imagine that you're me on this call. You aim to show that you're a partner to this company. You have a strong product and deliver outstanding value. As the CTO, they're already speaking to the right person. This error is so generic that it could be anything, no matter how epic or insignificant. What happened to me is probably one of those worst case embarrassing scenarios that could have been avoided if we had proper error reporting for the use case that occurred. As it turned out, it was simply an invalid value in a field that wasn't adequately validated and therefore very benign. Yet scenarios like this happen every day, and not only to customers. Maybe you're a developer trying to solve a bug and then see a non-descriptive error message. How do you know if you've reproduced the correct bug or discovered an entirely new one? Let's look at this from the perspective of QA. They're testing the system and they get a non-descriptive error message. What's the problem? Did they take the wrong version of the source code? Is the configuration wrong? Maybe this is an operating system setting, like the wrong security setting on the directory. How are they supposed to figure it out? They probably won't, and they'll escalate this back to a developer. Poor error reporting is, unfortunately, one of those situations that can be avoided entirely. Suppose you take a few extra minutes to think about what can go wrong and implement more specific error or exception handling so that you can narrow down the cause. There's a vast difference between being unable to read a file, not being able to connect to a database server, or having invalid data. It's even more frustrating because as developers, we thrive to create a very modular architecture. If we only consider building proper error reporting within those modules, we can make our lives and others easier. A module that handles interacting with a database server could potentially have a lot of causes for errors. But implementing a proper general handling function, should any of those happen, can at least give people a chance to understand what just happened, and maybe if you're lucky and have proper documentation, they'll know how to resolve this problem without necessarily escalating to a developer that'll have to debug the application and reproduce what happened to provide an answer. Suppose we stay within the theme of the database server. In that case, an error that reports that a table is missing likely means a problem within the database, whereas an error that says that the application cannot connect to the database server itself means a problem with the network. Finally, a problem with invalid data may mean that validation is not being done correctly somewhere within either the data generation or user input, which essentially means that the issue is within the code. These are three simple problems with a database server, but out of the three, only one should be sent to a developer, while the other two should be sent to DevOps or a DBA. Poor error reporting is one of those things that will create useless work for developers, potentially endlessly. Developers must get involved in finding the root cause, since we are essentially dealing with a black box that offers very little feedback other than an error has occurred. But let's take this to the next level. People frequently complain about errors, yet won't be able to describe precisely what the error was about, even if it's right on the screen. Maybe they've moved on or they had to run to a meeting. They're busy. The reality is that, unfortunately, you can't rely 100% on someone using your software that they'll adequately write down the error and then report it back to you or your team. I believe proper error reporting is beyond simply some text that says what happened, or at least the context of what happened. In my opinion, proper error reporting must include logging persistently to a file or something else so that errors can be retrieved by you or any other technical person, maybe the user with some guidance or documentation. Anytime that they're talking to support, they're trying to describe what happened. It becomes trivial for support to guide them, open the file so they can see not only the description of the error, but if there's other technical information that's included so they can be adequately understood and forwarded to the right resource if needed. Just bear in mind that whenever you store the errors, it's a good idea to test early so that you can actually write to that file and the application so that if it cannot log errors, you should probably not load at all. Provide a very descriptive message that if for some reason you can't write to the error log. So in summary, errors must always be appropriately handled and the error message should be descriptive. In addition to this, all errors should be logged into an error log file. An application should not allow to function if it cannot log its errors, as this is an installation or configuration error, which will come back to haunt you, so testing the startup process is essential. Did I forget anything? Let me know in the comments how you handle errors in your application.